Today, I want to talk about why I believe Lies of P will be the greatest From Software game that From Software didn't make, and potentially, at least as far as I'm concerned, a Game of the Year contender. It isn't without some flaws, but even with a few blemishes, this game has undeniable potential. Also, during my playthrough of the demo of Lies of P, I found out something really cool, and we're going to go through that in this video. Let us begin. It's really a beautiful thing that in 2023, with all the sloppy launches we've had over the past few years, the excitement for modern gaming being exposed as a hack, a lackluster, disappointing cash grab from the dominating big names in the business, that something like Lies of P can come from a largely unknown Korean developer, Round8 Studios, and shadow drop a freaking demo, and it be the best thing I've played this year. Lies of P aims to tell a darker take on the classic story of Pinocchio. The official synopsis for the game reads, "You are a puppet created by Geppetto who's caught in a web of lies, with unimaginable monsters and untrustworthy figures standing between you and the events that have befallen the world of Lies of P." When I booted up the demo, I was just taken aback by the presentation. This thing is just oozing with style. Even as far as the bloody loading bar, which is stylized as the nose of Pinocchio growing and the now lying instead of now loading in the bottom right, it's all very clever. The optimization on PC is absolutely flawless. I had a locked 120 FPS, dropping maybe 2 to 5 frames during intensive load on the highest graphic settings, which, yeah, sure, I have a decent card and processor, but new releases have been so shoddy in the optimization department. This is just such a refreshing experience for shit to just work out the box like that. The demo doesn't give much away with the story, which is, probably a good thing. Instead, it just lets the gameplay, the pacing, and the progression speak for itself. This is probably the biggest demo I can even remember playing. It gives you access to 3 boss battles, each of them proving the team behind this game knows exactly what they're doing, and require you to have an understanding of the different systems drip-fed to you throughout your demo playthrough. I'm going to be real with you, okay? I'm not the biggest From Software fan, and only because I didn't play Dark Souls until I bought and fell in love with Elden Ring. The challenge of the gameplay is kind of like crack to me at this point, so consider me a relatively new fan of the genre. I liken the From Software gameplay to my journey learning the guitar. It demanded serious dedication and respect before results started leaning in my favour. After completing Elden Ring, I went back to play the Dark Souls games, but I haven't been able to try Bloodborne, okay? I didn't own a PlayStation system at the time of its release, and for some unknown reason, they haven't announced its inevitable port to PC yet. But I will play it as soon as I can get my mittens on it, don't you worry about that, sir. My point is, this game will be very familiar to fans of those games. I've heard it's closest to Bloodborne in terms of gameplay. There's light and heavy attacks, a dodge roll, which for many is a point of contention, but we'll get to that in a bit, a block and parry system, backstabs, visceral attacks, an Estus flask equivalent, and so on. The enemies in the game are classically trained in the art of bait your parry and slap you on the off time, making each one you encounter a game of studying their various attacks to learn the timings until you can beat them taking as little damage back as possible. Lies of P seems to lean more in the favour of perfect guarding, or parrying, over the reliance of iframes during its dodge roll. It's mainly because there are so little iframes during the dodge roll, it makes it feel really inconsistent. At first I found this to be kind of rage-inducing, I'm not going to lie, as I couldn't seem to figure out how the flow of combat was supposed to go. That, or because being the Soulslike that it is, I was trying to play it just like a Souls game. This was the first of many times I'd come to discover what differentiates this from the formula From Software created. Lies of P needs you to be focused, guarding at the perfect time to absorb the enemy's attacks and take no chip damage. Sure, you can regularly block, the chip damage you do take can be restored by successfully landing attacks without taking any more hits. Apparently Bloodborne had a very similar system. The parry system kind of blew my mind, because you parry an enemy enough, it'll break their weapon in half, reducing the reach of their attacks. And this even works on the second boss battle, the guy with the donkey head and the giant sword. It's such a cool system, and it makes you feel like a total badass once you get the timings down. Unfortunately for that boss though, he can just be cheesed with spamming backstabs. I really think they should probably revise whether that should be possible in the full release. There's also a sort of posture system, whereby if you parry an enemy enough or land enough charged heavy attacks, the opponent's health gauge will start to glow white. And when this happens, you land one more charged heavy attack and it will put them in a stunned state, allowing you to just waltz over and deal huge damage with a visceral attack. And if you do run out of healing during a big boss fight, that's not going to cuck you like it does in FromSoft games. Because being brave and continuing to land strikes charges up the flask, I'm just going to call it a flask, okay, for simplicity, to allow you to heal just one more time. and this can be repeated as many times as you want, so long as you obviously don't die. This is a great comeback mechanic in my opinion, especially for new players who find the difficulty of these games too off-putting to try them. And all this just kept the encounters feeling tense, encouraging a high-risk, high-reward drug that I just couldn't help but get addicted to. You need to keep an eye out not just on your health and stamina bars, which fans of the genre will be well versed in, but Lies of P also features a weapon durability bar. And unlike other RPGs where you'd need to use a repair kit or maybe like visit a blacksmith, in this game P can use his left arm as a grinder and sharpen his weapons up in real time. Now I noticed a lot of people online giving the game shit for this, mainly because they just refuse to have to learn something new, but I found this mechanic to make fights more tense. If you're not paying full attention to everything going on and all the systems, you're gonna get burned. Not only that, but the animation looks so cool, how could you hate it? Successfully landed attacks slowly build a meter which you can burn for what they're calling fable arts, which are essentially just cool looking special attacks. Each weapon will have 2 of these, one for the blade and one for the handle, and incoming another unique system I love about this game. You can pull weapons apart, mix and match their various blades and handles to find the perfect attack animations or fable arts to suit your style of engagement. I absolutely love this idea, okay? The developers know that people are always after like the best build metas, and so they just offer up all this variation for people to experiment and try and discover the perfect weapon combination. And you damn well know when the full game releases, there will be countless YouTube videos on builds. Hell, I might even end up making some of those myself, so subscribe for those. Not to mention the customizable left arm, which can do all sorts of wondrous things.
Get the fuck over here!
The combat system in this game is already a thing of beauty. If they can keep this pace of unlocking things and retaining this level of excitement throughout the main game, dare I say, this could even topple some of the great work the almighty From Software have offered. People far and wide have tried to copy the From Software gameplay, to try to clone its magic formula, their own Chemical X, to make their own Powerpuff Girls. But it hasn't always broken the mold in meaningful enough ways to really cement a spot in the market for themselves. Let's put it nice and simply, alright? Let's put it this way. If the next Souls game to come out of From Software have the souls you lose from dying to a boss waiting for you just outside the boss room, you know Lies of P at least evolved the genre in some way. The level design starts off pretty linear. It has a nice system of leading you through enemy-ridden routes, which have doors which can only be opened from one side. Those act as sort of checkpoints in case you die. You can quickly make your way back from the last Stargazer you visited to the location of your lost Ergo, which is this game's version of the currency you use to level up or buy shit from vendors. But after you leave the hotel section, you're greeted to a really nice city area which has all sorts of secrets and things hiding in it, branching paths to explore and tough enemies to discover. This was another part of the demo where my eyes kind of lit up and I just sat forward in my seat and I was just like, you know, I see you, I see you. Again, if this is expanded on in the main game, we're going to be eating good, guys. We're going to be eating real good. The sound design shows a lot of promise too. Slashes registering with the enemy feel meaty and, much like the animation, weighted with their delivery. But even down to the finer details, like the heavy wind blowing on top of the rooftops in the city area, which dampens when you enter a building where the ticking of clockwork can be heard from inside the walls. These are all by design to immerse you into the world, and it does a fantastic job, in my opinion. The OST goes so hard too, just listen to this boss theme. The atmosphere of the game reminds me of kind of Resident Evil 2, Bioshock and Castlevania all mixed together. It's not an innately scary game, though there is a sort of looming creepiness in the air. Or just the fact that there are murderous puppets staggering around trying to kill you. I mean, that could have something to do with it. But Hotel Krat, which serves as the hub world with the almost vampiric OST playing, really gives me the Castlevania Symphony of the Night warm and fuzzies. When Geppetto is rescued and makes his way back to the hotel, returning there to see his workshop had opened, it just made me think about how busy that place is going to be once you've explored more of the main game and populated it with the characters you meet along the way. It's always going to be a safe place to go to level up, visit the merchant, progress some dialogue and story stuff, and then get back out there. Alright, so here's the discovery that I made in the demo. After dying a couple of times to the second boss battle, again the guy with an ass for a head, an event happened which shone a light on something that we can probably expect in the main game. And I've not heard anyone else talk about this too, so when you spawn at the Stargazer near that specific boss battle and take the elevator down, you have to kill or run past some pimps with some broadswords. Now, me being the lazy guy I am, I chose not to stop and cleave him a new one on one of my runs. So I engage the donkey face, he kills me, but then the puppet who must have slowly been following me into the fight appears just before the camera fades away from the death screen. The puppet and the boss engage in combat. Now this means that there is a programmed dynamic between human enemies and puppet enemies. They don't get along. There will be moments where you could potentially lure a pack of puppets into an area of a tough human enemy to allow you to just hide in the chaos of a war between factions. How freaking cool is that? This game has so many layers. There are some notable flaws I wanted to point out though, which stop this game being perfection in my eyes. The most glaring of which is the voice acting and the facial animations. The voice work isn't bad, it's just not very standout. I get what it's trying to do, the whole mysterious, slow speaking thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, Elden Ring was full of that kind of stuff, but there it felt more genuine and intriguing. Here it just feels a little off the mark to me in the delivery and the script. The contrast of the monotonal Sophia to the spring in his step Gemini just felt like I couldn't find a side character in the demo who I wanted to listen to for any longer than I needed to. P doesn't speak at all during this preview, so I'm not sure if he will be a mute in the final game, but I don't really mind if he doesn't. However, I know that will bother some people. It's the lifeless facial animations which don't help either. Luckily, the cinematography is good enough though, so at least it isn't a complete bore. You only get a few cutscenes in the demo, but they are all very high production value. This isn't a deal breaker for me because I know the gameplay is the focus, but it would have been really nice for that quality to extend to the VA work and maybe have some more expression on the characters' faces. I mean, I'll give P a pass because he's literally a puppet, but Sophia, sorry darling, no excuses. People are saying the dodge roll and the parry timings are too unforgiving. I would maybe agree with the dodge roll, but the P organ upgrading system with Geppetto, you're able to make the roll more effective. So maybe the demo wasn't the best indication of how the full game will feel once you've dumped some quartz into that talent tree. We'll have to come back to that one. The parry timings are tough, but they are doable. It feels like you really only get a few frames to successfully pull it off. I fear if it's made easier though, the fights wouldn't be as tense. It's a really hard one to gauge at this point. The lead dev put a video out not too long ago in which he answered some of the feedback players left from playing the demo. I'll link it in the description in case you're interested. He does state that they're going to make adjustments, so it's worth noting things will definitely have changed before September 19th. Another thing I'm worried about is the enemy variety. We know that being a Souls-like, you're going to get compared to the Souls games, which have an abundance of different and interesting enemy types. This game really only had a few that they showed, and they were pretty much just standard humanoid-shaped puppets and a dog. I love how P gets covered in oil when killing these mechanical puppets, but I would really like to see some more interesting enemy types in the full release. If the game lacks in this department, it's going to be a huge reason why interest could fall off after the halfway mark, where presumably you'd be leveled up enough to be comfortable taking on the regular scrubby guys and would need more of a challenge to keep yourself engaged in the gameplay. Judging by some of the trailers they put out though, there seems to be quite a few, at least interesting looking boss battles waiting for us. All in all though, this feels like it's going to be a surprise hit, which really don't come by very often. I love the lore, the setting, the visual style, the look of the main character, which is very important, and the gameplay. If they can keep the pace right throughout the game with just more of what we got in this demo, I feel confidently that this game will be on the podium at the Game Awards and solidify Round8 Studio as From Software's main competition. I could just go on and on about how much I love this game. I'm seriously frothing over it. But I'm declaring now, I did it in a poll as well, but I will be making videos on this game going forward up to release, and I will definitely stream it when it comes out. It won't detract from the Silent Hill stuff though, guys, don't worry about that. We're still doing full coverage on that. We're just waiting at the moment, just sitting here waiting. I needed a new game to get hype about, and this one I'm genuinely excited for, so yeah, Lies of P. These are just some of my thoughts on Lies of P though, guys. I do want to hear yours. Did you play the demo? Did you like it? Did you think anything could change? Like the video, guys, if you enjoyed it. Dislike it if you didn't. Subscribe if you want to see more from me, and I'll see you when I'm looking at you. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you, man. Hey, I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate you, man.